What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than normal. We're going to be looking at my chart setups and how I use them, and then I'll leave the shared workspace with the link in the description below. So hopefully you guys stick around to understand why I have it set up the way I have it set up. And yeah, let's get right into it. So first thing we're looking at right off the bat, because I primarily trade the E-mini futures. For most of you guys that do watch my videos, that's basically all I post videos on. Occasionally, I'll throw in, some type of equity stock of sorts and look at it. But mostly, I look at the E-mini futures contract, and because of that, it's how I have it set up. So in the larger time frames, I like to look at chart or not chart. I like to look at the candlesticks. Okay, so I like to have the candlestick form on my chart, and then I like to have just three simple moving averages, and and I'll show you guys that here in just a second. So right out the gate, my general settings, I like to have my data box as a fixed versus floating. Floating just kind of gets in the way, and I don't like the way it looks, so I like to have it as a fixed data box where it's like always in the top left hand corner of my screen. Um, and that's basically the extent of the general. Now, if we go into my appearance, this is where I get into a little bit more of the customization side of things, how I like to have it looking. I'll mess around with the colors from time to time, just kind of keep things interesting. I feel like red is always just kind of in your face, makes you scared type of color. So I chose a different color and kind of like a 90s vibe look to it. So this is how my candles are. So chart type candle, right? That's how I have it filled in. I use crosshair, my snap. I typically can change this using settings in the lower hand right hand corner of my screen. And then obviously my background, I like to have it black. You can change it however you'd like. So if you wanted to change it, you can go into more settings and change it to whatever you like. But I like my background to be black. Now, if we go and click on the futures option, I like to have my extended hours as off. That way I can see if we gapped up or gapped down. That way I can identify gaps in the market, right? So I like to have my show extended hours off, okay? That is primarily the reason, is just so it kind of flows a little bit better, and I can identify whenever a big move in the market has occurred. So that's how I have my chart settings. Other than that, there really isn't a whole lot uh, of change. My favorite time frames that I like to use, the ones that I have favorited, uh, basically are the 1 minute 5, the 30-minute 90-day, the 30-minute 10-day, because sometimes I like to just look at the closer time for a little bit closer, a little bit more zoomed in. 30 30-minute 90 days to have it just kind of a bigger, larger, zoomed out picture of what the 30-minute looks like. 1 hour, 4 hour, I don't use those as often, but I do look at them. My 1 day, 1 year, once again, just kind of have a zoomed in idea. And then I like to look at the 10-year, 1 day to kind of have an overall much larger picture of what is occurring. Then we obviously have my 3 year weekly time frame, and then the 15-year monthly time frame. So those are the time frames I primarily look at, is the monthly, the weekly, and the daily as far as my larger time frame. So whenever I'm reviewing my charts, that is what I'm looking at. Now, if we go into my studies and look at my studies, you'll see that I have my daily SMA, the 20, the 50 daily SMA, and then the 200 daily SMA. Okay, those are the ones I primarily look at whenever I'm looking at the larger time frame. And then in the volume section, I have my buy and versus sell volume tick, kind of just how these bars they are colored in for the most part. I don't really use them to base my trades off of primarily. It's just more of a visual thing for me. And then obviously within that, it has the average volume, etc. So, whenever I'm looking at my charts, I can kind of see, all right, where's the average volume? over the past 30 days has been 1.4 million. Okay, and then this current bar was 1.3, so slightly under uh, the average volume. So that is what I like to look at with my larger time frame. So if I want to change into the monthly, then that's what it looks like, right? So that is my larger time frames. Pretty simple for the most part. I like to try to keep it as simple as possible. I don't like to have too much on my chart when I'm looking at the larger time frames. Too much on it can lead to analysis paralysis, right? And we don't want that. So if you guys like that, I'll leave that workspace in the link below. All right, now let's go ahead and look at my multi time frame chart and how I have it set up. We'll start off with the 1 minute chart, maximize it. I do not trade off my 1 minute chart too often. I do look at it because a lot of times it lines up very visually with what I'm doing on my 30-minute time frame, which is what I look at a good majority of the time. So right now, like I said, I try to keep my charts fairly simple and clean. This doesn't look simple and clean, right? And that's because I have a few different studies on here. Appearance is basically the same. The only difference is I use the bar chart on my smaller time frames like the 1 minute, 30 minute, 15, 5. I like to use bar chart, especially in the 30-minute time frame, because it is easier to see things like single prints. And then I just don't get caught up in thinking, all right, this is a hammer bar or a hammer candle, whatever. I don't like to think about all the different candles out there. So I just like to keep it simple with the bar, seeing where the highs, the lows, where we closed and where we opened at on the bar. Same background setup, nothing's changed there. And then obviously just played around with the color. Now, in my 1 minute, I do like to keep the extended hours on. That way I can kind of see when we're approaching the highs and the lows of the overnight session, because those are good market generated information that I use. So when it comes to my 1 minute, I do keep the extended hours on, but of course you can change that if you would like. Now let's go into my studies, and on my studies you can see there's quite a lot, a little bit more, right? I have my 9 EMA moving average. Now keep in mind these EMAs, the 9 is one of the main ones that I look at. That and then the 144 simple moving average. Okay, I have the 9 on there because it's a little bit. It's a blue line, and if I were to zoom in here, if I'm to zoom in, you'll be able to see kind of that blue line, right? And usually we're either above or below it, and it kind of identifies a shorter term trend whenever we are above or below it. Another thing I like to primarily look at is the simple moving average 144. Now that 144 is something I look at a lot. All right, that is something that just lines up very well when it comes to things like an afternoon rally high or an afternoon pullback low. If you guys do not know what that is, watch my other videos and you'll find out. But 144 simple moving average is another primary. Obviously, I have the VWAP on there. And then I have with the standard deviations, I like to look at standard deviations because a lot of times we get to a standard deviation and kind of struggle. So like back on this past Friday, we traded between VWAP and that first standard deviation several times. So that's how I kind of use that. As you can see, we came down to the 144 and the VWAP, bounced off of it, came back up to the standard deviation, sold off back into VWAP and the 144 simple moving average, and then rallied back into that first standard deviation. And then, back and forth, consolidation. And then finally we got above that first standard deviation, closed above it, and then began to move up into the second standard deviation, right? So that's why I like to look at the 144 whenever we're pulling into it. Sometimes it acts as a support or an area of resistance, determining how the day's been moving in a larger time frame sense. Other than that, I have just my 20 simple moving average, the 50 simple moving average, the 9, and then the 200. Those are things, obviously, whenever we come close to it on our daily time frame and the larger time frames, I'd like to see how we are reacting to those areas uh, in the shorter time frame. So that's basically the gist of my 1 minute time frame and how I use that as far as trading goes. Now, another one that I have set up is my 5 minute. We'll go ahead and look at that. Same concept. This one's just a little bit different. Same setup, just a little less. I keep my 9 EMA on the 5 as well. And then I have my VWAP on here. Other than that, and then the volume profile, just kind of get an idea of areas that may, be of interest. And then obviously in my appearance, I have the same concept, black bar chart, and then my extended hours trading session is on. Now, more often than not, I do have this chart in a 15-minute time frame. That way I can mark the high and the low of the overnight session. And then whenever we get to those areas, see how we react to them. And then my 9 EMA on this 15-minute chart is kind of the primary reason. The 9 EMA on the 15-minute chart and then the 144 simple moving average on the 1 minute chart tend to line up pretty well, especially when it comes to an afternoon rally high or an afternoon pullback low. But that is the gist of my 15-minute time frame, or my 5 minute is daily open, moving average, 9 EMA, the volume profile, and then VWAP. And then obviously I'll leave, you guys will have that whenever you download this workspace setup. And then last but not least is my 30-minute time frame. Now, this is my multi-time frame setup. This is primarily what I'm looking at all day long is these three charts. And then right here in the middle, I have my time and sales. I like to look at time and sales as we are, moving. Whenever we do move in large, volatile times, I like to see what kind of size is coming through. Typically, I keep it on whenever we have larger days. I keep it on anywhere from greater than or equal to 5 contracts. And then sometimes if it is extremely volatile, I'll go up to greater than or equal to 10 contracts. Other than that, I just show all sizes, just kind of get an idea of the tempo and pace of things. Now, my 30-minute time frame setup is basically the same, right? Appearance, black background, same bar chart, nothing different there. However, I do not have my extended hours trading on in my 30-minute time frame. That way I can see when gaps are in the market. I can see us gap up or see us gap down. And then whenever I'm looking at my 30-minute time frame, I can see things like single prints. That's why I have it as a bar chart. So you can kind of see an intraday gap, right? So in this section where I'm kind of running my mouse over, you can see there's like a little bit of a gap here, right? Between this high and then this low, kind of a intraday gap or a set of single prints, as we like to say. Other than that, my studies I have in here are the volume profile. How I have it set up is click on global. I have the value area basically blacked out so it doesn't annoy me. But you can see the value high is highlighted in blue, and then the value low is highlighted in blue. And then everything else I pretty much have turned off for the most part. And then my point of control I have highlighted as yellow, and then data does not exist. I have it turned off or blacked out as well. But volume profile is one that I always look at. This is the primary thing that I look at whenever I'm reviewing my charts, showing value area higher or lower. And then I have halfback in here as well. So halfback is that, so I don't look at the daily, have the daily open put in there, but just separately daily open, right? half back that I have is here. I have that daily low and that daily high turned off. I like to mark them myself. I don't like it to have automatically marked for me. So I have those turned off. But if you would like to in this study, you can turn them on and it'll automatically mark that open, the high, the low, and then the half back area. Half back is that blue dashed line. Basically, all it is the halfway point of the day's trading range. And a lot of times, that's how you identify where point of control is going to be. It is going to be the widest area in the profile nearest to half back. And then, other than that, I have the 200-day moving average. Occasionally, I'll take that off, or leave it on there. And that is basically all there is to my charts. Nothing too crazy. I have different workspaces set up where I look at the larger time frame, that multi time frame, where I'm primarily look at whenever there's a trend day, more likely. Whenever we are choppy, kind of like we were on Friday, I primarily just look at my 30-minute time frame. I primarily just look at this 30-minute time frame to avoid my getting caught up in middle rotation, just choppy session, and just kind of trade the extremes or the edges of the profile. That is kind of how I like to trade on a rotational day. Try to avoid getting analysis paralysis in the smaller time frames, and then obviously I have my time and sales over here set up. But that is the extent of my workspace. Nothing too crazy. Try to keep it pretty simple, and then obviously I keep my drawing sets down here in the right. I have different things. Use destinations, the one that I primarily have marked on my charts with all my destinations, and then default is just straight blank, right? And yeah, that's basically the setup. That's how I use it. This is the primary thing that I look at right here, my 30-minute time frame profile. This is where I do all my technical analysis, how I trade in the intraday. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, please leave a like, leave a comment below if there's anything I missed or could go back in a review and give a little bit better detail on. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for stopping by. Stay positive. Use stops. We'll catch you in the next one. See ya.